April 4, 1943. A B-24 Liberator lifts off from Salik airfield near Benghazi as part of a night bombing mission toward Naples. The aircraft carries 9 men, full fuel, a full bomb load, and navigation equipment rated for long-range operations. Its call sign is recorded. Its serial number is logged. Its return is scheduled before dawn. At 0:12 on April 5, a brief radio transmission reaches the base. The aircraft reports low fuel and requests assistance locating the field. Beacon signals are transmitted in response. No position is given. No follow-up call is received. Other aircraft from the mission land. Damage is reported. Weather difficulties are logged. One aircraft does not appear in the landing sequence. No wreckage is observed at sea. No distress signals are detected. Search flights find nothing on the water. The aircraft is entered on the loss list as missing, presumed down in the Mediterranean. 15 years later, in the interior of the Libyan desert, an intact 4-engine bomber is found resting on its belly. The landing gear is retracted. The bomb load is still inside. There are no bodies in or around the aircraft. North of the fuselage, a line of disturbed stones leads away into open desert. The line continues for miles. On April 4, 1943, at Salik airfield near Benghazi in Libya, aircraft B-24 Liberator serial number 41 to 24301 is assigned to the 376th Bombardment Group, United States Army Air Forces. The aircraft bears the name Lady Be Good, painted on the nose in standard unit style. The bomber is configured for a long-range combat mission and carries a crew of 9 officers and enlisted men. The crew consists of First Lieutenant William J. Hatton, pilot, First Lieutenant Robert F. Toner, co-pilot, Second Lieutenant Louis M. Dodge, navigator, Second Lieutenant John S. Waravka, bombardier, Technical Sergeant Guy E. Shelley, engineer and top turret gunner, Staff Sergeant Vernon E. Moore, radio operator, Staff Sergeant Robert E. Lamott, waist gunner, Staff Sergeant Gerald D. Ripslinger, waist gunner, and Staff Sergeant Harold J. Ratke, tail gunner. All personnel are assigned to the 514th Bombardment Squadron. The mission scheduled for the night of April 4, 1943 involves a bombing raid against the harbor facilities at Naples, Italy. The operation includes multiple B-24 aircraft departing from bases in Libya. Weather conditions at the time of departure are reported as marginal, with sand haze over the desert and cloud cover expected over the Mediterranean and the Italian coast. Briefing materials specify the planned route from Libya northward across the Mediterranean Sea, arrival over the Italian mainland, bomb release over Naples, and return southward to bases in North Africa. Pre-flight procedures are conducted in accordance with standard operational checklists. The aircraft is fueled to capacity for the extended flight. Bomb load is secured in the bomb bay. Navigation equipment includes dead reckoning instruments, celestial navigation tools, and radio direction finding gear. The radio compass is installed and tested prior to departure. Emergency survival equipment is stowed aboard, including water containers, rations, signal flares, and desert survival kits, as required for operations over remote terrain. At approximately 1400 hours local time, the Lady Be Good departs Salik airfield as part of the formation. The takeoff is uneventful. The aircraft climbs to cruising altitude and proceeds northward on the assigned heading. The formation maintains radio silence as directed, except for necessary operational communications. The flight progresses over the Mediterranean Sea during the afternoon and evening hours. As the formation approaches the Italian coast, weather conditions deteriorate. Cloud cover increases, and visibility is reduced. Anti-aircraft fire is encountered in the vicinity of Naples. Several aircraft release bombs by radar estimation due to obscured targets. Records indicate that Lady Be Good fails to release its bomb load over the target area. The reason is not established in contemporaneous reports. The aircraft turns southward with the formation following the bomb run. During the return flight, weather conditions remain poor. Cloud layers persist, and winds at altitude differ from forecasted values. Navigation becomes increasingly dependent on dead reckoning and instrument readings. Radio silence continues. Some aircraft encounter difficulty maintaining formation integrity. The Mediterranean crossing occurs during nighttime hours. As the aircraft approach the Libyan coast, ground-based radio beacons are expected to provide navigational guidance. The Benina radio beacon near Benghazi is scheduled to transmit homing signals. Due to atmospheric conditions or equipment limitations, reception quality varies among returning aircraft. Some crews report difficulty obtaining reliable bearings. At approximately 0:12 on April 5, 1943, the crew of Lady Be Good initiates radio contact with base operations. The transmission reports low fuel status and requests assistance in locating the airfield. The message is brief and lacks detailed positional data. Ground controllers respond with standard homing instructions and beacon transmissions. No further radio transmissions are received from the aircraft. Other aircraft from the same mission land at Libyan bases between 0:30 and 2 o'clock hours. Several report damage from anti-aircraft fire or weather-related difficulties. All returning crews note challenging navigation conditions. Base operations personnel log the absence of Lady Be Good from scheduled recovery lists. At dawn on April 5, 1943, Lady Be Good is officially listed as missing. The aircraft is presumed down at sea based on last known position estimates and fuel endurance calculations. Air-sea rescue protocols are initiated. British and American search assets are notified. Initial search planning focuses on the Mediterranean Sea north of the Libyan coast. Search aircraft are dispatched to conduct visual reconnaissance over likely ditching areas. Naval vessels in the region are informed and instructed to observe for wreckage or survivors. No debris, oil slicks, or life rafts are observed during initial search sorties. Weather conditions complicate visual detection efforts. Over the following days, additional search flights are conducted. Reports continue to indicate negative results. No distress signals are received. No sightings of parachutes, flotation devices, or aircraft parts are confirmed. The absence of evidence leads search coordinators to extend search patterns incrementally but remain focused on maritime areas. By mid-April 1943, after standard search duration protocols are fulfilled, active search operations are reduced. The aircraft and crew remain listed as missing in action. Notification procedures are initiated through official channels. Next of kin are informed according to wartime regulations. Administrative records note the aircraft's failure to return and the presumed loss over water. Personnel files reflect missing status. No further operational actions are recorded regarding Lady Be Good during this period. Unbeknownst to search planners at the time, the aircraft does not descend into the Mediterranean Sea. After failing to locate the Libyan coastline, the Lady Be Good continues southward over land. Fuel consumption continues as engines operate at cruise settings. The aircraft crosses the coastal plain and proceeds into the interior of the Libyan desert. At some point after passing over the coast, the aircraft reaches fuel exhaustion. Engine power decreases sequentially as fuel tanks empty. The pilot maintains control as long as possible. The aircraft descends gradually. With no suitable landing field visible in the darkness, the decision is made to abandon the aircraft. The crew prepares for bailout procedures. Parachutes are donned. Hatches are opened in accordance with standard emergency exit protocols. One by one, the crew members exit the aircraft at low altitude over the desert. The exact order and timing are not recorded. The aircraft, relieved of crew weight, continues briefly on an unmanned trajectory. After the final crew member exits, the aircraft remains airborne for a short distance. With engines no longer producing power, it descends and impacts the desert surface. The landing gear remains retracted. The fuselage contacts the ground and slides to a stop. The airframe sustains limited structural damage due to low forward speed at impact. The aircraft comes to rest upright on its belly. The crew members land by parachute at dispersed locations south of the aircraft's final position. Nighttime conditions limit visibility. Upon landing, personnel gather available equipment and attempt to orient themselves. Desert terrain consists of flat, rocky surfaces with minimal vegetation. No landmarks are visible. Standard survival procedures emphasize remaining near the aircraft. Due to uncertainty regarding position and the assumption of proximity to the coast, the crew begins movement northward. Navigation relies on compass bearings and estimated direction of the sea. Water supplies are limited. Rations are consumed in measured amounts. The aircraft remains intact in the desert, unobserved. Onboard equipment, including radio gear, weapons, ammunition, and supplies, remains in place. The emergency radio transmitter is not activated. No signal fires are recorded. The crew proceeds on foot over multiple days. Marching occurs during cooler hours. Rest periods are taken during daylight. Physical exertion increases water consumption. Terrain remains uniform, providing no indication of proximity to inhabited areas. Individual crew members experience varying physical conditions. Marching order changes as fatigue affects pace. Equipment is discarded progressively to reduce load. Parachutes are abandoned. Footwear deteriorates due to abrasive surfaces. No contact is made with rescue forces. No aircraft pass overhead within visual range. No ground tracks are observed. The desert environment remains silent and featureless. Administrative records during this period continue to reflect missing status. No updates are entered. Operational focus remains on ongoing combat missions in the Mediterranean theater. The events occurring on the desert surface are not documented in real time. No signals are received. No eyewitness accounts are available. The crew's movements and conditions remain unknown to military authorities. As days pass, water supplies are exhausted. Movement slows. Crew members separate due to differing endurance levels. Personal items are left behind at rest points. Navigation attempts continue northward based on compass direction. The aircraft remains stationary at its landing site. Wind and sand gradually accumulate around the fuselage. Paint markings remain visible. No structural collapse occurs. The desert preserves the airframe in its landed condition. Search efforts are not extended inland due to prevailing assumptions regarding loss at sea. No ground patrols are dispatched into the desert interior. Aerial reconnaissance focuses on coastal and maritime zones. By late April 1943, official procedures transition the crew status from missing to presumed dead, pending further information. Documentation is filed accordingly. The aircraft is removed from active inventory records. No further wartime documentation records the fate of Lady Be Good or its crew during this period. The desert location remains unvisited. The aircraft and crew are not recovered. Operations continue elsewhere without reference to the incident. The narrative of events remains incomplete within contemporary records. The absence of physical evidence sustains the classification of loss over water. The desert retains the aircraft and the traces of human movement across its surface without observation. The situation remains unchanged through the remainder of 1943. The Libyan desert continues to be traversed by military convoys and aircraft operating at altitude, none detecting the grounded bomber or the dispersed remains of the crew. No reports alter the official understanding of the incident during the wartime period covered in this account. After separation on the ground, the crew members regroup to varying degrees during the hours following the bailout. Night conditions limit visibility and orientation. The desert surface consists of hard-packed gravel interspersed with sand, offering little shelter. Parachutes are gathered initially for shade and signaling material. No immediate injuries are documented, though physical condition varies among individuals. By daylight on April 5, 1943, the crew establishes approximate northward direction using a magnetic compass recovered from equipment carried during bailout. The assumption guiding movement is that the Mediterranean coast lies to the north and can be reached on foot. The estimated distance to the coast is based on the belief that the aircraft was near the shoreline at the time of fuel exhaustion. Water supplies consist of individual canteens and limited emergency containers. Rations include small quantities of concentrated food. The crew organizes movement during early morning and late afternoon hours to reduce exposure to heat. During midday, rest periods are taken in minimal shade created by parachutes or equipment. The terrain remains uniform. No roads, tracks, vegetation, or settlements are observed. Wind conditions are light. Visibility is unobstructed, though the horizon offers no distinguishing features. Compass headings are maintained with periodic checks. Over subsequent days, the crew continues northward movement. Water consumption is carefully rationed. Physical fatigue increases steadily. Footwear deteriorates due to abrasive ground conditions. Some crew members remove boots to relieve discomfort, later attempting to continue barefoot or with improvised padding. As endurance declines, marching intervals shorten. Rest periods lengthen. Items such as parachute fabric, excess clothing, and non-essential equipment are abandoned to reduce carried weight. Written notes are produced by at least one crew member, recording dates, directions of travel, and physical condition. These notes are placed in pockets or secured among personal effects. At several points, individuals fall behind the main group. Decisions are made to continue forward rather than remain stationary. Separation occurs gradually rather than through formal decision. Each individual maintains northward movement as strength permits. By the second week following bailout, water supplies are depleted. Attempts to locate moisture in the environment yield no results. Rations are exhausted. Physical condition deteriorates rapidly. Walking becomes intermittent. Individuals rest for extended periods between short movements. Several crew members collapse and do not resume movement. Their locations are marked only by discarded equipment or personal items. No burial procedures are performed due to physical limitations and environmental conditions. The remaining crew members continue northward in reduced numbers. Compass use becomes inconsistent due to weakness. Orientation is increasingly difficult despite clear skies. Movement becomes largely linear based on prior heading rather than continuous verification. At some point during this period, the navigator's notes indicate distances covered and approximate headings. The entries become less frequent over time. Writing ceases thereafter. No aircraft are observed at low altitude. No ground units are encountered. No radio equipment is available to transmit signals. Signal flares are not deployed, either due to exhaustion or assessment that no observers are present. The desert environment remains unchanged. Daytime temperatures rise. Night temperatures drop significantly. Clothing offers limited protection. Exposure contributes to declining physical condition. One by one, the remaining crew members cease movement. Final positions are separated by distances consistent with staggered collapse during continued travel. Personal effects are found nearby, suggesting attempts to rest or shelter. Throughout this period, the aircraft remains undisturbed at its landing site. The airframe's condition remains stable. Engines, propellers, and control surfaces show no evidence of fire or explosion. Bomb load remains intact in the bomb bay. Ammunition belts are unused. The radio remains powered off. No emergency beacon transmissions are recorded. No wartime patrols traverse the immediate vicinity. Ground movement in the deep desert interior is minimal. Aerial operations occur at higher altitudes and along established routes, not intersecting the aircraft's location. Military administrative processes continue without alteration. Personnel records remain unchanged. No additional search efforts are authorized beyond the initial period. No intelligence reports suggest inland loss scenarios during this time. The physical traces of the crew's movement persist on the desert surface. Footprints, disturbed stones, and discarded items remain visible due to the arid environment and absence of vegetation. Wind action is insufficient to erase all markings during the months following the event. By late spring 1943, all movement associated with the crew ceases. The aircraft and the dispersed locations of personnel remain unobserved. No contemporaneous reports capture these final conditions. The North African theater continues active operations. Airfields, ports, and supply routes are engaged in ongoing military activity. No reference to the inland desert incident appears in operational summaries during this period. The status of the aircraft and crew remains recorded as missing, presumed lost at sea. No amendments are entered. The desert interior holds the physical evidence without interaction. This condition persists through the remainder of 1943 and into subsequent years. The aircraft remains upright and largely intact. The desert environment preserves equipment, documents, and personal effects in situ. No wartime recovery or investigation occurs. The absence of contact, signals, or sighting sustains the original assumption regarding loss location. Administrative closure remains in effect. The events described take place without external observation or documentation beyond the limited written notes produced during the march. These notes are not recovered or known to military authorities at the time. The sequence of movement, separation, and cessation of travel remains unrecorded in official channels during the period covered. The desert interior continues to be sparsely traversed. No changes occur to the status of the aircraft or crew within the operational timeframe of the Second World War. In the years following the disappearance of the aircraft and crew, the interior regions of the Libyan desert remain largely untraversed except for limited military patrols and occasional geological or mapping expeditions. Wartime operations conclude in North Africa in 1943. Airfields at Salak and Benghazi transition to reduced activity and later to peacetime use or abandonment. Records concerning missing aircraft from wartime operations are archived within military administrative systems. During the immediate post-war years, no organized searches are conducted in the inland desert areas south of the Libyan coast for missing aircraft presumed lost at sea. The assumption regarding maritime loss remains unchanged in official documentation. No reports are filed that contradict this assessment. By the mid-1950s, increased activity occurs in the Libyan desert related to oil exploration and geological surveying. Civilian and military-supported expeditions begin to move deeper into previously unvisited regions. These operations involve ground vehicles, aerial reconnaissance, and temporary camps established in remote desert locations. In May 1958, a British oil exploration team operating in the Kalanchio Sand Sea region conducts routine survey work approximately 440 miles south of Benghazi. The team travels by ground vehicles equipped for extended desert operation. During movement across a flat gravel plain, personnel observe an aircraft silhouette in the distance. Upon closer approach, the aircraft is identified as a four-engine bomber. The airframe rests upright on its belly. The landing gear is retracted. No visible fire damage is present. The fuselage, wings, tail assembly, and control surfaces remain largely intact. Paint markings and serial numbers are visible. The name Lady Be Good is legible on the nose. Inspection of the aircraft exterior reveals minimal structural damage consistent with a low-speed belly landing. Propellers are bent, indicating engine stoppage prior to ground contact. Engines show no evidence of explosion. The bomb bay doors are closed. No external signs of combat damage are observed. The interior of the aircraft is entered through an accessible hatch. Inside, the cockpit instruments are intact. Switch positions indicate systems were powered down or lost power. Navigation charts remain in place. The radio equipment is present. No personal effects indicating crew presence at the time of landing are found inside the cockpit. The bomb bay contains a full load of unexploded ordnance. Ammunition belts are loaded in gun positions. Emergency equipment remains stowed. No parachutes are present aboard the aircraft. The absence of crew members is noted. The discovery is reported through appropriate channels. Coordinates are recorded. Photographs are taken. The location is marked for future reference. Due to the unexploded bombs aboard, no immediate attempt is made to remove equipment or conduct extensive excavation. Subsequent review of aircraft serial numbers confirms the identity as the missing B-24D from 1943. Military authorities are notified. Records are cross-referenced with wartime loss reports. The discrepancy between presumed maritime loss and inland location is noted within reporting documents. Following the initial discovery, limited follow-up surveys are authorized. Ground teams return to the site to conduct controlled inspections. Explosive ordnance specialists assess the bomb load and determine that removal is feasible but not immediately required for documentation purposes. During subsequent ground surveys, investigators observe tracks and disturbed stones leading away from the aircraft toward the north. These traces extend beyond the immediate vicinity of the airframe. The arid environment has preserved surface markings. Search efforts expand incrementally along the direction indicated by the tracks. Investigators proceed on foot and by vehicle, following visible traces where possible. Scattered equipment items are discovered at intervals. These include pieces of clothing, parachute fabric, canteens, boots, and other personal effects. Several miles north of the aircraft, the remains of one crew member are located. Identification is established through uniform fragments, personal items, and service insignia. The remains are found on the surface. No burial is evident. Nearby are discarded equipment and empty containers. Additional search operations locate further remains at varying distances along the same general heading. The distribution of remains indicates separation over time and distance. Each location is documented. Coordinates are recorded. Photographic records are made. Personal effects are catalogued. Among the recovered items are written notes carried by the navigator. The notes contain dated entries recording direction of travel, estimated distances, and observations of physical condition. The final entries show progressive reduction in movement. The notes cease abruptly. Other personal items include wristwatches stopped at various times, indicating differing durations of survival. Dog tags, letters, and photographs are recovered. These items are handled in accordance with recovery procedures. The remains of all 9 crew members are eventually located within a corridor extending northward from the aircraft. Distances between individual locations vary. The farthest remains are found more than 80 miles from the aircraft. No remains are found beyond this area. Medical examination of the remains is conducted in the field to the extent possible. No evidence of combat injury is observed. Environmental exposure is consistent with desert conditions. Reports are compiled without interpretive conclusions beyond observed facts. Following recovery, remains are prepared for transport. Identification is confirmed through records and personal effects. Notifications are issued through military channels to next of kin, updating status from missing to deceased with location details. The aircraft site is revisited multiple times. Selected equipment is removed for analysis. The bomb load is later rendered safe. Components of the aircraft are left in place or salvaged according to logistical feasibility. Documentation compiled during recovery includes maps, photographs, inventories of recovered items, and condition reports. These materials are filed with appropriate military and governmental archives. The aircraft remains largely intact at its desert location for a period following discovery. Environmental conditions continue to preserve the structure. The site becomes a reference point in subsequent desert navigation charts used by survey teams. No changes are made to wartime operational doctrines as a direct result of the discovery during this period. The recovery process focuses on documentation, identification, and repatriation. By the early 1960s, the recovery operations conclude. The aircraft remains partially intact. Some components are removed for display or analysis. The desert location remains remote and infrequently visited. All recovered materials are processed according to established procedures. Reports are finalized and filed. The sequence of events, from mission departure to final recovery, is reconstructed within official records based on available physical evidence and wartime documentation, without contemporaneous eyewitness accounts. The events associated with the aircraft and crew are incorporated into archival records. No further field activity is conducted at the site within the timeframe covered by this account. After initial notification of the aircraft's location and identification markings, the discovery is relayed through available administrative channels responsible for coordinating military liaison in the area. The coordinates are recorded in survey logs, and the position is plotted against existing maps and grid references used for desert operations. The immediate condition of the aircraft is noted in field terms: airframe upright, landing gear retracted, minimal structural breakup, no evident burn patterns on skin panels, no crater indicating high-energy impact, and no dispersed wreckage field. The surroundings are described as open desert with a hard surface of gravel and compacted sand, with shallow undulations and intermittent patches of wind-blown sand. No roads are present, and no track network is visible in the vicinity except those made by the approaching vehicles. The aircraft's exterior is examined in a sequence consistent with safety and access. The nose section is inspected for damage. The glazed nose structure shows weathering and damage consistent with long exposure. Transparent panels are present in fragments. The nose turret mounting points and bombardier glazing are examined. No crew is located within the nose compartment. The cockpit canopy and flight deck windows are intact in part, with sand intrusion. The fuselage skin shows areas of abrasion on the belly. The wings are intact, with minor bending in places. The tail assembly stands in alignment. Control surfaces are present. Engine nacelles show intact cowling sections with weathering and sand accumulation around intakes and seams. Propeller blades on multiple engines are bent, indicating rotation ceased or reduced at impact. No oil slick is present, and no pooling is observed due to the arid surface and elapsed time. Markings are read and recorded. Serial number and unit identifiers are confirmed against known formats. The aircraft name on the nose is legible. Additional stenciling and insignia are present but faded. Investigators note the absence of battle damage indicators such as flak holes, shrapnel scoring, or large-caliber penetrations visible on primary surfaces. The aircraft sits in a shallow depression formed by its landing and subsequent wind action, with sand banked lightly along the lower fuselage edges and around the belly. Entry is made through a hatch or opening that allows access without significant force damage. Interior inspection proceeds with attention to safety due to the possibility of live ordnance. The bomb bay is approached with caution. The doors are closed or partially closed. When viewed through accessible openings, the bomb load is seen to be present. The ordnance appears to be in place and secured. No evidence is recorded of release mechanisms having been activated. The bombs show surface corrosion consistent with time and environment. Fuses are present. The possibility of unstable components is recognized. No attempt is made at this stage to move the ordnance. The flight deck is examined. Instrument panels are present with gauges and dials in position. Some instruments have broken glass. Switches and levers appear set in various positions. Throttles are in a reduced power configuration. Mixture controls and propeller controls are observed. The yoke and rudder pedals are present. A logbook is not immediately visible. Seats are intact. No crew remains. The navigator's station is examined. Chart tables are present. Fragments of paper and cloth are present. A drift meter and navigational instruments are seen. The radio compartment is inspected. Radio sets are present with cabling. Microphone and headset components are present. The tail compartment and gun positions are checked. Ammunition boxes and belts are present. Guns remain mounted. No signs indicate sustained firing such as expended casings on the floor. Emergency equipment compartments are inspected. Some items are present in their stowage locations. Parachutes are not found in their typical stowage positions, consistent with bailout use. The site is photographed from multiple angles. Photographs include general views showing aircraft position, close views of serial number and name, and interior views where feasible. Measurements are made of aircraft orientation relative to north, using compass bearing. The approximate heading of the aircraft's final rest is recorded. The immediate ground disturbance beneath the belly is noted, including scrape marks and shallow furrows consistent with a belly landing and slide. No major debris field is recorded extending from the aircraft, supporting the observation of a controlled or low-energy landing rather than disintegration. During inspection of the surrounding ground, personnel locate a trail of scattered items and disturbed stones leading away from the aircraft in a northerly direction. The trail begins within a short distance of the aircraft and extends in a relatively straight line. Items include pieces of fabric, small metal objects, and occasional larger items such as a shoe or part of a parachute harness. The surface shows where stones have been displaced by foot traffic, leaving lighter-colored patches beneath. In the arid environment, such disturbances remain visible for extended periods. A decision is made to follow the trail for a limited distance to establish its character and direction. Movement is conducted with water and navigation considerations due to the remote environment. As the trail is followed, additional items are found at intervals. These are documented in place. Coordinates are taken using available navigation instruments and mapped relative to the aircraft site. Items are not immediately removed unless necessary for identification or preservation. Notes are made describing each item, including approximate distance from the aircraft, position relative to the trail, and condition. Within the first segment of the trail, small personal objects are located, including fragments of cloth consistent with uniform fabric, pieces of parachute silk, and metal fittings. A canteen or container is found with no remaining water. A boot is found separated from its pair. The boot shows wear and abrasion. The pattern of item distribution suggests progressive shedding of equipment rather than a single cache. As the survey extends, the first human remains are encountered. The remains are located on the surface, in a position consistent with collapse. The environment has preserved bone and fabric remnants. Identification is attempted through inspection of uniform fragments, rank insignia, and personal effects. Dog tags are located or sought in the immediate area. Where dog tags are present, serial numbers are recorded. In cases where dog tags are missing, other identifiers are used, including name markings on clothing, personal letters, or service-specific items. Each discovery is recorded as a separate recovery point with coordinates and field notes. Photographs document the position prior to disturbance. Recovery procedures are implemented in the field. Personnel use protective measures appropriate for handling remains. The remains are collected carefully, preserving associated items. The surrounding area is searched for additional fragments and personal property. Items such as watches, rings, and wallet contents are collected with documentation. Any papers are stabilized to prevent further deterioration. Each recovered item is tagged with location information. The remains are placed in containers suitable for transport, and chain of custody documentation is maintained. Search operations expand along the trail. Vehicles are used where terrain permits, with personnel dismounting to inspect and follow the disturbed stone line. Where the trail becomes faint, searchers widen their pattern to either side, moving in parallel lines to locate additional items. In some areas, wind-blown sand partially obscures traces, requiring closer inspection. The general northward trend remains evident. As additional remains are located, spacing between sites becomes apparent. In some cases, remains are found relatively close together, suggesting two individuals traveled in proximity for a period. In other cases, remains are widely separated, suggesting individuals continued forward at different rates. At certain points, clusters of discarded items indicate rest locations. These include concentrations of fabric, empty containers, and food wrappers. In one location, a group of items includes a parachute bundle, suggesting it was carried for shade and then abandoned. Among recovered materials, written notes are discovered. These are found in pockets or among personal effects. The notes include dated entries. The writing is in pencil or ink, with legibility reduced by time and exposure but still readable in places. The entries describe direction of travel by compass heading, estimates of distance traveled, and condition of water supplies. Some entries include references to the time of day, rest periods, and decisions to discard equipment. The notes are handled with caution to prevent tearing. They are placed in protective coverings and transported for later examination. A map or chart fragment is also located among the effects at one of the recovery sites. It shows grid lines and coastal features consistent with theater-issued maps. The fragment is folded and worn. No markings are immediately visible beyond creases and stains. It is collected and documented. Wristwatches are recovered at several sites. Some are stopped, with hands fixed at specific times. The times are recorded. No inference is made in field notes beyond the observed positions of hands. The watches are collected for preservation. Other items recovered include a compass, a small flashlight, and parts of a survival kit. A flare cartridge is found and used. Food wrappers indicate the type of ration carried. Buttons and belt buckles are collected. Clothing fragments include flight suit material and standard issue undergarments. As the search progresses further north, the number of items decreases, suggesting diminishing carried property. Remains found at greater distances are associated with fewer personal effects. In some cases, the remains are accompanied by a small cluster of stones arranged near the body. The arrangement is documented without interpretation. In other cases, no deliberate arrangement is evident. At each recovery point, the surrounding area is inspected for footprints or traces indicating direction. In several cases, disturbed stones continue beyond a body location, indicating continued movement by others. The trail remains generally northward. At one location, a divergence in disturbed stone suggests a brief deviation east or west, possibly to avoid terrain features. The divergence rejoins the primary line. The deviation is mapped. Logistical support for the search includes water resupply, fuel, and communication. Vehicles carry additional water. Camps are established periodically to allow rest and to stage further search. Radio communication is used to coordinate with liaison authorities and to request additional resources when needed. Medical personnel are included to address heat-related illness among searchers. Search operations are scheduled to avoid the hottest hours. Ordnance concerns remain at the aircraft site. Explosive specialists are consulted regarding the bomb load. The ordnance is identified as standard aerial bombs carried for the 1943 mission. The condition of fuses and stability is assessed visually where possible. The risk of detonation due to movement or impact is recognized. A plan is made to render the ordnance safe or to avoid disturbance while documentation continues. The aircraft interior is entered only in necessary areas, with the bomb bay avoided except for observation. Additional documentation is collected from the aircraft itself. Items such as aircraft manuals, log sheets, and navigation documents are sought. In the cockpit and navigator's area, paper fragments are found, some fused or stuck together. Where intact sheets are located, they are collected. A checklist card is recovered. The radio compartment yields a few documents and possibly a code card holder, though the contents are not confirmed in the field. All paper items are handled carefully and stored to prevent further damage. The aircraft's radio equipment is inspected for indications of transmission attempts. Switch positions and power configurations are noted. The state of the battery is not determinable without testing. No external antenna damage is observed beyond weathering. The emergency transmitter location is checked. No evidence is recorded that the emergency transmitter was activated. Fuel tanks are inspected where accessible. No fuel remains. Lines are dry. The engines show no internal inspection at this stage. Oil reservoirs are checked externally. No significant oil remains. The landing gear mechanism is observed. The gear is retracted and appears to have been left in that configuration. No evidence suggests an attempted gear-down landing. Flap settings are recorded based on visible positions. Control columns are centered. Trim settings are not determined in the field. The aircraft's bomb load eventually requires action due to safety and site access. Explosive ordnance disposal procedures are implemented. Specialists approach and inspect each bomb. Fuse types are identified. The decision is made to remove fuses where possible or to neutralize them in place. The work is conducted with minimal vibration and controlled handling. Once fuses are rendered safe or removed, bombs are either left in place with caution or moved to a safer arrangement. Records are kept of each ordnance item handled, including type and position. After ordnance safety measures are completed, additional access to the aircraft becomes possible. The bomb bay is opened or inspected more thoroughly. The suspension racks are intact. Release mechanisms show no signs of having been actuated. Bomb shackles are in place. The bomb bay wiring is present. No evidence is noted of internal fire or explosion. With the remains recovered and the aircraft documented, transportation and repatriation processes commence. Remains are transported to an appropriate facility for further examination and formal identification. Identification is confirmed by dog tag information where available, and by comparison of dental records and other service records when necessary. Official casualty status updates are prepared. Administrative notifications are issued through military channels. Personal effects are inventoried and assigned to each individual for eventual return to next of kin, consistent with policy. Field reports are drafted. These include the Initial Discovery Report, Aircraft Identification Report, Ordnance Safety Report, Remains Recovery Report, and Personal Effects Inventory. Photographic logs are compiled with captions. Map overlays are created showing aircraft location and each recovery point. Distances are measured between points, using odometer readings and map calculations. Compass headings are included. All documents are prepared in a factual format, recording observations and actions taken. The question of the aircraft's flight path at the time of loss is addressed through examination of the aircraft's orientation, fuel state, and the location relative to known bases and coastal features. Investigators reference wartime mission reports and operational orders for the April 4, 1943 sortie. The departure base and scheduled route are reviewed. The last known radio transmission time is noted from archived logs. Fuel endurance for a B-24D under typical mission load is considered. Wind data from the night of the mission is referenced where available from meteorological records. No definitive statement is made in field documentation beyond the correlation of location with available data. The navigator's notes provide contemporaneous travel data. Entries include dates beginning shortly after the bailout. They record distances walked, headings maintained, and remaining water quantities. The handwriting becomes less frequent over time. The final entry indicates continued movement with depleted water. The notes are transcribed for the record. The original notes are preserved as evidence. Additional personal writings are found among the effects at some sites. These include letters and small notebooks. Some letters are addressed but unsent. Contents include names and home addresses. These are treated as personal effects and handled accordingly. No excerpts are circulated beyond what is required for identification and administrative processing. At certain recovery sites, items associated with group movement are found, including a shared canteen cup and a piece of parachute fabric used as shade. The configuration suggests rest points. Each site is documented with photographs and notes. No attempt is made to reconstruct personal interactions beyond the physical evidence. The spread of remains along the northward corridor is recorded. The farthest recovery point is measured at a significant distance from the aircraft site. This point includes remains and minimal equipment. The location is marked, photographed, and recovered. The corridor is mapped as a line of travel. Search beyond the farthest point is conducted for a limited distance, with no additional finds. The decision is made to conclude ground search after negative results beyond the established corridor and after review of resource constraints. The aircraft itself remains in the desert after documentation and partial salvage. Certain components are removed for analysis and for preservation. These may include the aircraft's data plates, instrument panels, radio components, and identifiable markings. Removal is conducted with tools and with care to preserve evidentiary value. Removed items are tagged and transported. The remainder of the aircraft is left in place due to logistical difficulty of full recovery and due to remaining structural integrity. Some parts of the aircraft are later used for instructional or display purposes, based on administrative decisions made by the responsible authorities. Documentation accompanies any removed parts to maintain identification and provenance. The site is referenced in subsequent mapping materials for desert operations, with cautionary notes regarding remaining debris. During this phase, the handling of the incident is treated as a recovery and documentation operation rather than an active investigation in the wartime sense. The focus remains on identification, safe handling of ordnance, and accurate recording. Reports are filed with archival repositories. Copies are forwarded to relevant military branches responsible for casualty accounting and historical records. The procedures for returning remains involve coordination with military mortuary services. Remains are prepared and transported to appropriate burial sites or repatriated according to policy and family preference where applicable. Official correspondence is prepared. Next of kin receive updated notifications that include the location of recovery and confirmation of identity. Personal effects are prepared for return, with inventories and receipts. In parallel, aircraft loss records are amended. The aircraft status is updated from presumed lost at sea to recovered at inland location. The date of loss remains the mission date, with additional notes indicating recovery date and site coordinates. Unit records are updated. The incident is referenced within the 376th Bombardment Group's loss summaries and associated administrative logs. Meteorological and navigational factors are reviewed in the context of the mission. Archived operational orders include headings, timing, and expected beacon use for return to base. The Benina beacon and other navigation aids in the area are reviewed for operating schedules and known limitations. Reports from other crews on the same mission are reviewed where available, including accounts of poor visibility, cloud cover, and navigation difficulty. These documents are treated as supporting context for the loss record, without additional interpretive language beyond what is present in the records. The aircraft's last known communication is incorporated into the amended record. The time of the transmission, the content regarding fuel status and request for assistance, and the base response procedures are noted. The absence of further contact is recorded. No additional radio log entries exist for the aircraft after that point. At the aircraft site, the condition of the radio equipment suggests no extended transmission after landing. No external antenna remains show evidence of deliberate adjustment. The emergency transmitter was not activated. The reasons are not determined in field documentation. The record remains limited to observed switch positions and equipment condition. The distribution of remains and items supports the recorded direction of travel in the navigator's notes. The compass recovered among the effects is examined for damage. It appears functional. No deliberate markings are noted on it. The compass is preserved. As the recovery operation concludes, final site photographs are taken. The aircraft is documented from all sides. Interior shots are taken of the cockpit, navigator station, radio compartment, bomb bay, and gun positions. Close-ups are taken of remaining personal items not removed, with notes indicating their locations. The surrounding area is photographed to show terrain and visibility conditions. The horizon line is included to indicate the lack of landmarks. The compiled documentation is assembled into a case file. The file includes discovery report, photographs, maps, ordnance safety report, remains recovery log, personal effects inventory, and amended aircraft record. Copies are distributed to agencies responsible for casualty accounting, records correction, and archival storage. The file is maintained for reference by authorized personnel. After completion of these actions, the aircraft site returns to inactivity. The remote location and limited access reduce further contact. Wind and sand continue to affect the exposed airframe and the disturbed ground around it. The recovered corridor of travel remains mapped in documents rather than marked on the ground. The administrative status of the crew is updated and finalized in personnel records. No additional field operations are conducted in the immediate period after closure of the recovery. Following completion of field recovery operations, the collected materials, reports, and recovered items are transferred through established administrative channels. Documentation assembled in the field is reviewed for completeness and accuracy. Photographic negatives are processed and labeled. Maps showing the aircraft location and recovery points are finalized with standardized grid references. Each report is dated and signed by responsible personnel. Copies are distributed to the appropriate military departments overseeing casualty accounting, material records, and archival storage. The remains of the crew members are transported from the recovery staging area to a mortuary facility designated for processing remains recovered from overseas locations. Identification procedures continue as required. Where dog tags are present and legible, identification is confirmed directly. Where dog tags are absent or incomplete, identification is supported through personal effects, uniform details, dental records, and comparison with existing service records. Each identification is documented in writing. Official forms are completed to change personnel status from missing to deceased, specifying date of loss as 4 to 5 April 1943 and location as inland Libya. Personal effects recovered during the search are cleaned, stabilized, and inventoried. Each item is associated with an individual crew member where possible. Inventories include descriptions, condition, and recovery location. Items are packaged for shipment according to regulations governing the handling of personal property of deceased service members. Notification letters to next of kin include information on the recovery and identification, prepared in accordance with standardized language and procedures in effect at the time. Recovered documents, including written notes, are preserved as part of the official record. The navigator's notes are transcribed verbatim. Original documents are stored in protective enclosures. Transcriptions are appended to the case file. The notes are treated as factual records of movement and condition, without interpretive commentary. Other recovered papers, including letters and charts, are catalogued and stored or returned as personal effects depending on content and policy. The aircraft loss record for B-24D serial number 41 to 24301 is formally amended. The original entry listing the aircraft as missing and presumed lost at sea is updated to reflect recovery at an inland desert location. The amended record includes the discovery date, coordinates of the aircraft site, and summary of condition. The aircraft remains listed as lost on the date of the mission. Unit strength and loss summaries are updated accordingly. The amendment is distributed to record-keeping offices responsible for aircraft inventory and historical files. Ordnance disposal documentation is completed. Reports list each bomb type found aboard, fuse condition, and actions taken to render ordnance safe. The final status of the bomb load is recorded. Safety measures implemented at the site are noted. The ordnance report is filed with engineering and safety branches. No further action regarding the ordnance is scheduled once the site is cleared for non-operational hazard. Aircraft components removed for analysis or preservation are logged. Data plates, selected instruments, and identifiable markings are assigned tracking numbers. These items are transported to designated facilities. Condition reports accompany each item. Decisions regarding long-term disposition, including storage, display, or disposal, are deferred to responsible authorities. The aircraft itself remains in situ following conclusion of recovery and documentation. Its location is noted in desert navigation references used by survey teams and other authorized personnel operating in the region. No perimeter or marker is installed beyond temporary indicators used during recovery. The site is not designated for ongoing activity. Correspondence related to the incident continues between administrative offices for a period following recovery. Clarifications are requested and provided regarding dates, locations, and identification details. Final casualty reports are issued once all identifications are confirmed. These reports close the active accounting process for the crew members. Family notifications are completed in sequence as identifications are finalized. Official letters provide factual information regarding recovery and identification. Personal effects are returned with accompanying inventories. Any questions from next of kin are handled through established liaison offices. No additional details beyond documented findings are included in correspondence. Within military archival systems, the case file is indexed under aircraft losses for the North African theater. Cross-references are made to unit histories, missing aircraft lists, and casualty accounting records. The file is stored for reference by authorized personnel. Access is controlled according to archival regulations. The discovery and recovery do not prompt immediate changes to operational procedures, as the events occurred during a prior phase of the war. No new directives are issued as a result of the findings. Existing training and navigation procedures continue based on current doctrine. Subsequent visits to the aircraft site occur infrequently. Survey teams operating in the region occasionally reference the location as a known landmark. The airframe continues to deteriorate slowly under desert conditions. Sand accumulation increases around the fuselage and wings. Wind action abrades exposed surfaces. Structural integrity declines gradually due to environmental exposure. Recovered artifacts and documents remain in storage or display according to decisions made by custodial authorities. Some items are used for instructional purposes or placed in controlled exhibits. Documentation accompanying these items maintains identification and provenance. The incident is referenced in internal summaries of recovered missing aircraft. These summaries list basic facts: aircraft type, serial number, unit, mission date, discovery date, and location. No interpretive analysis is included beyond what is supported by field documentation. The official record reflects the sequence of events as established through wartime documents and recovery findings: mission departure from Libya, failure to return, presumed maritime loss, inland discovery, recovery of aircraft and crew remains, and administrative closure. Each step is supported by dated reports and physical evidence. No further field investigation is conducted after completion of recovery operations. The corridor of travel identified through recovered remains and items is not altered or extended. No additional remains or equipment are reported beyond those documented during the recovery period. Archival custody of the case file ensures long-term preservation of records. The materials are available for review under conditions set by archival policy. The record remains unchanged unless new physical evidence is presented, which does not occur within the timeframe covered. The desert location continues to exist as recorded, with the aircraft remains present and partially intact. Environmental conditions persist without human intervention. The physical evidence not removed remains subject to natural processes. Administrative attention to the case concludes following completion of notifications, record amendments, and archival filing. Responsibility for the site and remaining artifacts shifts to general oversight rather than active management. The sequence of actions described constitutes the entirety of recorded activity related to the aircraft and crew from the time of discovery through closure of recovery and documentation. No additional official actions are recorded within this account.